Okay, well, we've almost got it together. We didn't quite transition smoothly there, but welcome to another edition of E.W. Jackson for America. I'm still for America, folks. No longer a candidate for president, but I'm still for the country, and I'm still going to stop. I am never going to stop fighting for our country. And God bless each and every one of you out there who is standing with me. Maybe some of you have been standing long before I have. Some of you keep standing after I'm gone. But we're going to keep standing until we call this country back to its foundational principles as a constitutional republic rooted and grounded in Judeo-Christian principles. Let me get a couple of housekeeping matters out of the way. Be praying for me, by the way, because I really do want to add some more to the program. I want to start having some guests and doing some other things, showing you all some videos and whatnot, and putting a little bit more time and effort into the preparation of the program. Can't do that every day because I don't have time to do that kind of preparation every day, but at least once or twice a week I want to vary things a little bit and keep this going and keep growing our audience, frankly. This is what we're really interested in doing, and I'm believing God that we can do that in spite of the shadow banning and censoring and suppression efforts that are being put forth by the mainstream media, by the oligarchs or controligarchs, as one author has dubbed them, who really don't want people to hear anything but the point of view that they agree with. And they think that anything else is inappropriate. I told you all yesterday, well, maybe I didn't tell you this. Actually, I didn't tell you this because it happened after I was on the air. But, you know, we've sent out a press release to our own in-house press list, which is what we were doing before. And I normally use Christian Newswire and Standard Newswire for our press releases because they've got a good list. But I really ultimately came to realize that the same mainstream media that boycotts me because of my Christian views boycotts them because they are a Christian Newswire service. Because you look at the outlets that pick up their press releases, and most of the mainstream media outlets do not. The Christian outlets do, but the mainstream media outlets simply don't. Not that they don't send to them, but they consider them irrelevant. They're marginal. They're, they're off in a corner saying, oh, yeah. Those are the Christians, the fringe people. They believe in Jesus, yeah, right, Now let's talk about more serious matters. So, I tried to send a press release out with them through them. They wouldn't send it because they didn't like the content. It didn't meet their standards. I kid you not, folks. So I'm going to share with you the press release so that you know exactly what I sent out. Here it is. Here it is. I mean, very, very simple. It's less than 400 words. They refuse to send this. Now you listen and you tell me, does this seem like something that a press organization say, well, we can't send that. That's too inappropriate. It says Bishop E.W. Jackson announced his presidential campaign on July 14th, calling the date symbolism for 2 Chronicles 7:14, a well-known verse which says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. Over 100 people showed up at the downtown Richmond Marriott to hear Jackson's fiery speech about the future of America. He campaigned around the Richmond area the next day, calling attention to the deaths of black children and street violence since the Defund the Police movement began. On his campaign or policies, the only newspaper to cover Jackson was the Washington Times. The media blackout made it impossible to establish the legitimacy of his campaign or raise sufficient funds. Bishop Jackson accuses the media and Republican establishment of anti-Christian bigotry, says Jackson, quote, the institutional leaders in entertainment, journalism, corporations, professional sports, publishing, the military, the Democrat Party, and the Republican establishment have rejected Bible-believing Christianity as out of the mainstream, extremist, right-wing, the enemy. Democrats and their leftist allies hate black conservatives, but when you add being a Bible-believing Christian, it sends them into apoplexy. Now, this is a quote from me. They ghettoized the black community, and now they want to do the same to Christians. My campaign was a target of their bigotry, but the American people will overcome this evil. Bishop Jackson is considering the creation, that's close quote. Bishop Jackson is considering the creation of a new American Christian party, but has made no decision as to his next political move. Now I ask you, does that seem like a candidate for censorship? It's a quote, the quote from me, which you know, when it's a quote, that may be filled with opinion. That's not necessarily a statement of absolute fact, but this is coming from the individual who's saying it. You're not putting it forth as if it's absolute fact that you can document or that you can, you know, anything like that. That's what freedom of speech is all about. They would not send out that press release. They said it had to be neutral. You couldn't make assertions in the press release. I guarantee you, if they got a press release from Al Sharpton, if they got a press release from some liberal politician, whatever his racial or ethnic background, I guarantee you they wouldn't hold him to the same standard. They read that and said, no, no, no. See, that's why they censored my campaign, because they don't want people to hear this kind of truth. They don't want them to hear it. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want them to hear the truth at all. But they certainly don't want them to hear this. I mean, I would argue that it is a statement of fact that these establishment organizations have indeed dubbed Bible-believing Christians as extremist, right-wing, the enemy. I mean, I can document that. That's really not even in dispute. But okay, they don't agree with it, but fine. Well, why would you censor it? Why would you say, no, we can't send that out? Because they don't want people to hear it. Remember, I told you, a totalitarian system requires two things with regard to communication. First of all, it needs to gain control of every aspect of communication so that people hear only their point of view. And secondly, it has to suppress and censor any attempts to provide a countering point of view, because they don't want people to have a chance to think about what they've heard from them. You can't indoctrinate people that way, because then people hear counterpoint. Well, you know, actually, I hadn't heard that. Well, you know, that makes sense. And that makes me question this. Oh, no, 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 no. They don't want that. I said Hitler's success in turning Germany into a cult nation was not because he was a mesmerizing speaker, and not because he was so powerfully and logically persuasive, because frankly, I mean, I've watched Hitler's speeches and he was okay, but not my cup of tea. Certainly, I mean, I didn't see anything great about his speaking ability, but I guess for that time, someone who would, you know, rise to high levels of rhetorical flourish and wave his hands, maybe that was unusual and people were mesmerized by it. And of course, Germany did feel, after the Treaty of Versailles, did feel that they had been mistreated and really turned into a second-class nation when Germany had these very lofty ideas about the destiny of Germany, and Hitler appealed to that, but that wasn't the key. The key was Hitler committed himself and told the German people that he was going to absolutely crush all opposition. No opposition media, no opposition political parties, no opposition speech. If you spoke against what Hitler was saying, you were either going to be murdered or put into a concentration camp or tortured or all of the above. Put into a concentration camp, tortured, and then murdered. So there was no opposing viewpoint. There was nobody to say, wait. The Jewish people aren't the cause of our problems. How can that possibly be? You said that, you died. Well, these totalitarianists in our country are the same way. They have one point of view that they want to be heard, one point of view that they want to be accepted. And in order to make that work, you've got to shut down countering points of view. And they've learned very smartly that it creates a problem if you just flat out prevent someone from being heard, although they still do that too. I mean, Antifa is dedicated to deplatforming people, which means they don't want people with a viewpoint that they don't agree with to be heard at all. But these big tech firms, what they've learned to do is shadow ban. They basically suppress you and censor you without you even knowing it. I said, I know that that's what Facebook is doing to me. I can tell because my audience just grows very, 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 very slowly. And it reached a point, it got to 25,000 and just boop, stopped. And then, you know, a few here and there. YouTube took me off 3 times. Once just when I was about to reach that point of being able to monetize the program, boom, I'm gone. I am back on now, and maybe they've had a change of viewpoint. I haven't gotten any warnings about being shut down. Of course, COVID is over, so I don't get to talk about COVID very much. That was a big issue with them. But it's been something else, too. I think something I said about Islam or something. I mean, these people, they are not people who believe in the constitutional republic that the founding fathers gave us. They believe in a totalitarian system, and that they, who are supremely wise, should determine what people should and should not hear. It's really just that plain and simple. And so in that sense only, they are no different than any totalitarian leader, maybe in some other senses as well, but certainly in that sense, from any totalitarian leader or movement that we've ever witnessed in human history. Mao, Lenin, Stalin, Hitler, Pol Pot, Maduro's, go right down the line. It's this, because they're operating by the same principle. We, who are freedom-loving people, operate by an entirely different set of principles. I mean, so notice, you've never heard me come on and say, we ought to shut CNN down. We ought to shut down MSNBC. No. Because I don't believe in that. I want CNN to be heard. I want MSNBC to be heard. What I don't want is a monopoly on viewpoint. Remember how they went after Fox, and here again, I don't think you could call Fox a conservative network any longer. It does have some conservative voices on it, thank God. But do you remember the vicious attacks on Fox? It's not a news station. I mean, they weren't satisfied to say, well, we don't agree with Fox, but, let them be heard. Let's have a free and open debate. Let's see who the American people believe. Let's see who we agree with. Oh, no. Fox should not be heard. Remember the efforts that people were trying to come up with to figure out how can you close Fox down? That's the way they think. It's rather sad, but that's the way they think. So I brought all of that up simply to say that is part of what we are facing in our country right now, an all-out assault on the First Amendment of the United States of America, an all-out assault. And we as Christians have got to, on my call yesterday, I mentioned several things. I said we may need our own Christian political party. And that's certainly something I've thought about over the years. I'm thinking about more seriously now than ever after the debacle of seeing how I was treated during my presidential run. We've got to develop our own lines of communication. We've got to have a platform or platforms, more to the point, that allow us to get the word out and allow the American people to access what we are saying without having to go through the filter of the mainstream media. As you can see, I can't even get a press release out. And if I use a Christian news wire, I know basically that they're going to ignore it. Which means I can't really get to the mainstream media the way I could if I were a liberal, if I were a Marxist, a socialist, a communist, as the Democrat Party and most of their allies have become. I say most, not all. So we've got a job ahead of us. And so maybe a Christian political party, certainly other avenues of communication. You and I have got to change our vocabulary and stop using the vocabulary of the left. And it just means, look, they're going to censor you anyway. So we might as well try to raise up a new generation and try to reach those people who are given pause and made to think. As I said, I will no longer use abortion. Now, I know that there'll be a lot of people then who, I mean, the mainstream media, they, well, we're not going to have him on. He won't use the word abortion. Right. It's because it's the killing of an unborn baby. Shout that. Celebrate that. Well, you can't. So you got to call it something else so that you can sanitize it and keep people from realizing the horror of what you're doing. I mean, we're in the middle of a full-blown revolution, and the only thing we can do is be the most militant counter-revolutionaries we can be. With peacefully, okay, and rationally. By the way, thank you. Speaking of peacefully and rationally, you all know that this Christian guy, because the Iowa, I think it was the Iowa Supreme Court that determined that Satanism is a valid religion, and that if you're going to have a nativity scene on the Iowa State Capitol, then you'd have to have a Satanism statue as well. So they put a Satanism statue up at the Iowa State Capitol. Well, some Christian guy, somebody said, you know what, this is not going to stand. He went up there, I guess, with some kind of chainsaw or something and cut the head off the thing. So, look, I am not in favor of lawlessness, but I love the image of a Christian warrior getting up there peacefully, not hurting people, but getting up there peacefully, cutting the head off Satan. Because you know what? That's exactly what Jesus has done. The Bible says in Genesis 3:15 that the seed of the woman would bruise the serpent's head. And he got up there and cut the head off Satan. Well, they're prosecuting him now for destruction of public property or whatever. I don't know whether it's public property. I don't know what the charges are, but they are prosecuting him. And I don't know whether he needs help with his defense costs or not. I haven't seen anything that indicates that. And by the way, he's a veteran too, a veteran. But he went up there and cut the head off the thing. Oh, and that's in part what I mean. I was peaceful. He didn't harm anybody. He did destroy some property. But as far as I'm concerned, if there's any property that's worthy to be destroyed, I mean, if you're going to topple Confederate statues, and these are human beings, flawed, in some cases, in my view, wrong, but human beings nevertheless, I mean, the statue is representative of human beings, of course. If you're going to destroy those, I mean, my goodness gracious. Yeah, here's a candidate for the destruction of a statue of Satan, or a satanic symbol, a representation of Satan. And he went up there and cut the thing off. And praise God for it. I don't know, again, I don't have any information about whether he can be helped. What's this guy's name? Cassidy. And he apparently ran for, let me make sure I'm getting my facts right, because this happened in Iowa, but I think this guy, I don't know whether he lived in Iowa or not. His name is Cassidy. What's his first name? But Michael Cassidy. Here we go. Michael Cassidy. Veteran and Christian Michael Cassidy. Yeah, he ran for the state house in Mississippi, so I don't know what he was doing in Iowa, but I don't care. I'm glad he went and cut the head off the Satanic Temple statue, and they said it was damaged beyond repair. But they're going to continue to try to hold holiday celebrations on the state capitol grounds to celebrate Satan. First of all, in my view, Satanism, since it represents murder and rape and mayhem and destruction, it is not a valid religion under the Constitution, in my view, because it encourages and incites people to violence and lawlessness. Now, some people might not agree with that argument, but that's the argument that I would make. To me, it's the equivalent of saying, I want to have a religion built around murder. And by the way, Satan is engaged in child sacrifice. I mean, that's been part of Satanism. I want to have a religion built around murder and child sacrifice. Oh, that's a valid religion? Sure. You can encourage people to engage in that. No, you can't. No, you cannot. And my goodness gracious, you know, they've got to be some standards by which we judge, well, what is the valid expression of a religious viewpoint? You don't have to agree with it, but it can't be about murder. It can't be about destruction of people. It can't be about sacrifice of children. We can't validate that and say, yeah, you have a right to come bring your statues depicting the murder of children onto the state house property, onto the Capitol property, because after all, it's just as valid as the nativity scene. I mean, when are we going to apply some godly wisdom and some just good old downright common sense? At any rate, man, I didn't expect to spend all that time on that. I really didn't. But on the things I've talked about, the First Amendment, and by the way, let me add one other thing. We are a Judeo-Christian culture, and there's nothing unconstitutional about the acknowledgement and recognition of that. Because if you want to undo that, then you've got to undo our entire history. You can't. That means you can never teach the Mayflower Compact, because the Mayflower mentions Jesus Christ and it mentions Christianity. So you can't even teach that in a public school. Oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, no, violation of separation of church and state. Well, then you can't teach our history. You can't teach the Jamestown Covenant. You can't even teach the Declaration of Independence. And I told you all, I went to schools one time up in Boston with a covenant for kids to stay away from drugs and gangs. And at the end of the covenant, I quoted the Declaration of Independence, and I actually had teachers and principals who told me they could not use that because it mentioned God. I said, it's a direct quote from the Declaration of Independence. And they said, doesn't matter, it still mentions God. We can't do that in public schools. So what I'm telling you when I say, so you can't really teach American history, which is exactly what the left wants. They don't want you teaching American history because it is imbued with too much Christian culture. In fact, that's central to it. So what do they want to do? They want to lie about it, sanitize it. And one of the ways they're doing that is to marginalize us, Christians, shut us down, kick us out, ghettoize us, okay? We're not important. We're fringe. Okay. Let me here again. I didn't expect to jump into all that, but thank you, Lord. I'll just take that as leading of the Holy Spirit. I'm elated today. Yesterday, we sent out a letter about a matching grant. We've got a matching grant. A very generous donor said, I will give you dollar for dollar up to $50,000 for every dollar you raise in December up until December 31st. So that means anybody who gives 25, it becomes 50. Anybody who gives 50, it becomes 100. Anybody who gives 100, it becomes 200. 1,000 becomes 2,000. 5,000 becomes 10,000, and so on, up to the $50,000 limit. We have not come anywhere near the limit yet. And we've got, what is today, the 20th. We've got 11 days left. So I want you all to know. First of all, I want to thank those of you who've already given. We had somebody send in a donation of $3,800 yesterday as part of this matching grant appeal. So praise God for that. But of course, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 50, 100, whatever it is, it's all to help. And I would ask you if you would help us to reach our goal of the $50,000, because that $50,000 then becomes $100,000 by the end of the month if we can reach that goal. So please keep that in mind. Go to standamerica.us, standamerica.us, in order to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity that God has given us through a very generous donor. I want to remind you, my book is available. I was on the radio with Alex McFarland on American Family Radio. I'll be doing some substitutions and interviews on American Family Radio now. I would suspect probably fairly regularly. And I was on with Alex McFarland yesterday. That's going to air on the 22nd of December. And we talked about my book. My book is available wherever books are sold. If you if you go onto the Amazon search engine, you put Sweet Land of Liberty, my book comes up second or third. You can get it there, obviously. You can get it through our publisher's website, which is faithfultext.com, and you can get it through our website. You can just buy the book outright from us, or you can sign up as a Patriot Partner. So let me remind you, for the month of December only, so you get a double blessing here. Anybody who signs up as a Patriot Partner in the month of December, I will send you a book at whatever level you sign up. Now, remember, it's been $25 a month or more in order to become a Patriot Partner. I think we've had about 75 people sign up as Patriot Partners to get the book. But this month only, any amount, $1, $5, I said you can sign up for $0.10 a month, and I'll send you a free copy of the book. I hope you'll do more than that. And we've got Patriot Partners all the way from $5 a month to $2,000 a month. That's the range. So whatever you want to give, if you're not a Patriot Partner right now and you want to sign up to be a Patriot Partner and give a monthly amount, please do. Now, the Patriot Partner standard for one-time gifts is $300. So if you give a $300 gift, you are a Patriot Partner, and I'll send you a copy of the book anyway. But for those who give monthly and for those who don't have a lot of expendable income but you want to be supportive, I'm going to send you a free copy of my book if you sign up as a Patriot Partner. Go to standamerica.us for that. I mentioned this yesterday. I'm going to be hitting this every day. Don't forget the Martin Luther King Leadership Breakfast. If you're in the Southeast Virginia area, that occurs on January the 15th at 10 a.m. at the Chesapeake Marriott, 725 Woodlake Drive. Go to thecalled.org. That's THECALLED, thecalled.org. That's our church website. And the Martin Luther King Leadership Breakfast flyer will pop up. You click on a little yellow tab there to buy tickets. You can buy your tickets there, and we just hope you'll come out. We're going to have a wonderful time honoring police, firefighters, business people, people in ministry, and giving scholarships to 2 worthy youth. So it's going to be a great time. It usually is over no later than about 12 noon because people have to go back to work. So a lot of people come and participate from work. It's a holiday for some people if you're a federal, I think, or a state worker. Well, I don't know whether the state gives a holiday or not. That's going to vary from state to state, frankly. Or in some businesses, most businesses work that day. But at any rate, that's January the 15th. That's Monday, the King holiday, January 15th, 10 a.m. Eastern Time at the Chesapeake Marriott. Come on out and be a part of it. And go to thecall.org to get tickets. Now, January 27th, Andrew Womack is coming to town, really for the first big event he's held here. I think, according to his staff, I don't think he's been here in this area except to visit a church, and that was like 15 years ago or more. This is the first big event he's having here. We hope it'll become a regular thing. We want to make this a very successful event. He'll be here on January the 27th, 6 p.m. at the Chesapeake Conference Center, which is 700 Chesapeake Conference Center Drive, which is, by the way, right next door to the hotel. You can see them standing at the front door of each one. You can see the hotel from the center. You can see the center from the hotel. And if you're coming from out of town, by the way, and you're looking for a place to stay, the Chesapeake Conference Center, the Chesapeake Marriott, of course, has space available. And there's a Crossways Boulevard. I call it Hotel Row. I mean, you've got, I don't know how many hotels in Chesapeake on Hotel Row. It's got to be a dozen. And they're all literally within, I don't know, a tenth of a mile of each other, right beside each other all along that road. So plenty of places to stay in Chesapeake. And that's not 2 miles maybe from where the event's going to take place. So very easy to get to, great parking. Going to have a wonderful time at both events. The Andrew Womack event on January 27th at 6 p.m. That's a Saturday. And pray for good weather, folks, so that we don't have a surprise storm or something that gets in the way of people being able to come. We don't want to miss this wonderful opportunity. We're going to have seating for 1,000 to 1,200 people. There is going to be some limit on seating. So we're asking people to register. And you see the flyer, you'll see the email address and telephone number too. For those of you who don't, well, if you're watching me now, you do internet, but whatever you're comfortable with, you can either email us or you can call us, because we want to keep account of how many people are coming, so that we can make sure that we accommodate everybody. We may have to expand the number of seats. That's what we're hoping, that as we get closer and we realize, oh my goodness, we got a lot of people registered, we may expand the number of seats to make sure we can accommodate everybody who comes. All right. I got all that stuff out of the way. Now, let me hit a couple of other issues before I go, shall we? You know, I guess there's so many big stories, and I'm never going to be able to cover them all. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cover one. I want to come back to the issue of immigration. And this is why I was running for president, one of the reasons at least. We've had 190,000 encounters at the border this month. This is only the 20th. We're 2/3 of the way through the month. We've had 190,000 encounters at the border already this month. I mean, if that continues, it'll be 300,000 by the end of the month. And again, folks, at that pace, you're looking at 3.64 million people a year pouring into our country. And by the way, those are not the gotaways. Those are the encounters. Those are the people that the Border Patrol actually encounters, the ones who come to the border. We have no idea how many people are pouring into our country. I dare say it's probably upwards of 5, 6, 7 million people a year. We've got now approaching 20% of the people in our country were not born here. We're approaching that. It's close to 50 million. It would have to get to be about 60 million to be 20%, but it's close. It's close. And folks, that's a tipping point. Here's what I want to say about this. The Republicans are doing the right thing by holding up aid to Ukraine and pairing it with aid to secure our border. It doesn't make sense for us to be securing Ukraine's border and not securing our own border. But here's what I don't see among Republicans, not the leading candidate, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, or anybody else. We've got to say to the American people, we are witnessing an effort to take over our country, to supplant our institutions. You realize 3/5 of the people who are coming into our country are on welfare? The Democrats are taking care of them. They're buying them phones. They're putting them up in hotel spaces. They're getting them food. You've actually got illegal immigrants complaining about the quality of food that they're getting. We're transporting them to wherever they want to go in the country. I mean, we have become a concierge service for illegal immigration. Republicans, conservatives, the American Christian Party have got to say, we're witnessing the subversion of our nation. We're witnessing a group of people who so desperately want to take over that they are flooding the country with people who they believe will be beholden to them because they'll be the ones who gave them the welfare, gave them the phones, gave them the transportation, gave them the hotel rooms. They're the ones who kick veterans out of their living quarters in order to put illegal immigrants in their living quarters. And they will owe them, and that ultimately they'll give these people the right to vote, as Boston is doing right now. Already Boston is moving to give illegal immigrants the right to vote. We had some cities in Washington State that have done so, and I think a couple cities in California have already done so. But that doesn't matter, because in the meantime, they're flooding these states. That means they're going to increase the amount of congressional representation in these states. And that means if ultimately these people get the right to vote, you've got a voting bloc of just unimaginable proportions. I mean, we got 50 million people in America today who were not born here. If most of those people are not citizens and they become citizens, and they are beholden, as the Democrats believe they will be, to the Democrat Party, you are witnessing a fundamental takeover of the country. Because what the Democrats are aiming for is political hegemony. What they want is a one-party state. And they think this is the way to get it. Somebody's got to say that. Somebody's got to stop acting like this is just a disagreement over how much compassion we owe foreigners. That's not what this is about. The Democrats and the left don't care about the well-being of these people. I just read an article the other day, I don't know whether I kept it, about discovering that a lot of these illegal immigrant kids are working in slaughterhouses on the night shift. Children. Because they're being brought here in part for slave labor. They are being brought here by the cartels, and then they owe the cartels. They become the cartel slaves. They're used in child pornography. They're used for slave labor. Women are used in prostitution. Men are used as drug couriers and to do whatever bidding the cartels want them to do. We have enriched the cartels and we have turned them into mega billion-dollar, probably approaching trillion-dollar organizations. If this continues before it's all over, they'll be as powerful financially as big tech. But the Biden administration and Kamala Harris and the left and the Democrat Party and the Democratic Socialists of America, they don't care because they see this as a pathway to power. It is a power grab. And the American people, that's, with all due respect to Donald Trump, that's what Donald Trump needs to be saying, not they're polluting the blood of the American. I mean, Lord have mercy. The man can really be his own worst enemy sometimes. I mean, what does that even mean? We need to be telling the American people what's really going on here. We're looking at an ideological war against our constitutional republic and an attempt to subvert it, and illegal immigration is one of the tools they're using. That's not the only tool, but I dare say it's probably the biggest one. I mean, censorship is another one. And you know, you could go on down the line with the regulations, with with the voting corruption. There's a whole bunch of things that we could name, but illegal immigration, I would say, is at the top of the list for how they plan to take over the country and create a one-party state. They've discouraged the American people from having babies. They don't want babies. They want to kill babies. They want to lower the population. I mean, that's what Bill Gates and the Rockefeller Foundation and Warren Buffett and all these organizations, they think they're gods, they're demigods, and they know what's best for the planet, and they've got to reduce the population by about a third. Bill Gates projects, I think by 2050 will be 9 billion. He wants it to be 6 billion. That means you got to get rid of 3 billion people. I don't know how they plan to do that, but maybe these stupid vaccines. I don't know. I don't know what they have in mind, but that's his projection, and that's what he wants to do. And don't censor me, YouTube or Facebook, because that's a fact. He said so publicly. Check it. And he is a population control advocate. Check it. So we're not producing. So our population can be, therefore, more readily overrun by bringing outsiders in. Particularly outsiders that are beholden to a particular party and are therefore asked to buy into a particular ideology because they feel they owe the people that are selling them that ideology. I mean, you saw them coming across the border wearing Biden T-shirts. Thank President Biden. They know what that means. Thank the Democrat Party. Thank the leftists in this country who don't care about the rule of law and don't care about American sovereignty and don't care about the well-being of the American people, don't care about us being overrun by crime, don't care about the bill that it comes due for trying to take care of all these people who come here and can't take care of themselves. The only thing they care about is their power, getting it and keeping it forever. Somebody's got to be saying that. And that's not hatred against illegal immigrants. It's not based upon race. It's not based upon the stuff that when Trump uses the language of they're poisoning the blood, then the left just grabs that and says, see, he's a racist. He's like Hitler. I mean, again, I don't know what to make of a comment like that. I mean, it's just completely, it's unhelpful. It really is just unhelpful. What I just said to you is what we need to be saying to people about illegal immigration so that they understand what's going on. The illegal immigrants are not our enemies. They're their pawns. Going out and beating up an illegal immigrant or being mad at them, they're the pawns in this game. We don't need to beat them up. We need to and attack them and all that, or hate them. We need to deport them and close the border so they can't come from the 100 or plus countries from around the world from which they're coming, including our arch nemesis, Communist China, and Iran, and nations like that. I mean, this stuff is, but here again, they don't care about what happens to America as long as they get to rule over it. Or maybe I should put it this way. They don't care what happens to Americans as long as they get to rule over them, over us. That's a better way to put it. Because they want a country that's sufficiently intact that they've got something they can exploit. But they don't care about the institutions that uphold our freedom. They want control of those institutions because they want to take away our freedom so that they can have power over everything and everybody. That's the name of the game. Remember this, the issue is never the issue. The issue is never the issue. The issue is power. And that's what illegal immigration is all about. And that's what Republicans and conservatives better start saying to the American people, because they can understand that. That's more cogent and more logical than quote unquote replacement theory, because I'm here again, I don't even know what that means either. And polluting our blood, I don't know what that means. But I know what it means to flood our country with people who you believe will ultimately be the key to your future political power and the one-party state that we know they desire. Well, how do we know it? Look at what they've created in the most liberal states. California, Massachusetts, other places. They're one-party states. There's no opposition party to speak of. They basically get to run them like the little communist fiefdoms that they fantasize about. We can't let them run our country because they will destroy it as a constitutional republic based on individual liberty and Judeo-Christian values and principles. But that's what they want, to destroy that and construct a secular Marxist state. We have to call it that, but that's what it would be, in which you and I would be arrested for preaching out of Romans chapter 1. Because after all, that's violent speech, that's hate speech. We all know that. You ought to know better. In which you can't send out a press release unless it meets the state requirements. It doesn't have to be the state doing it if they're acting in behalf of the state's edicts and the state's mandates. It doesn't have to be the state doing it. Oh no, you can't say anything about that. This is a private company. Yeah, well, you know, I used to say when people would say that about big tech, I say no, they're not. And then of course we found out that they were deeply involved in colluding with the Biden administration over censoring people on the basis of quote unquote disinformation and misinformation. Yeah, that old analysis about Well, if it's not the state, it's a private company. That's gone out the window because these big tech oligarchs are really, practically speaking, they're states unto themselves, and they are in partnership with the government. All right. Well, I'm glad. When I looked at my watch, I thought, well, do I really want to do this? I'm glad I did, because this is important, folks. We've got to change the way we're making the case. See, that's why they don't want me on the campaign trail. That's why they don't want me as a candidate, because what I just said to you, I guarantee you probably 75% of the American people would say, you know what, he's right. Why isn't everybody saying that? Oh, no, no, no. They don't want that. They don't want that, because they've got to get the American people. They got to lull the American people to sleep so they can do with them do with us whatever they want to do. God bless each and every one of you. You know what you've got to do. And I'm going to do it until I go to heaven. No more fighting there. Praise God. Stand up, step up, speak up, refuse to back up. Because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit. Because we are on God's side.